The North Omaha Airport are taking off.
The idea is to turn the airport into a club-like destination spot for leisure pilots.
Laura Samble shows us why the developer is hopeful and why neighbors have some concerns.
I'm really excited about it.
Patrick Ackerman of Omaha is flying high on new plans to bring the North Omaha Airport back to life.
As a pilot, as somebody who's traveled to all corners of the U.S. flying my own plane, you kind of see the opportunity.
Built in the 1940s, the North Omaha Airport had its heyday in the 70s and 80s.
This was the place to fly. And a lot of people that are pilots in the Omaha area, they have history out here.
In the 90s, the airport housed mainly police helicopters. In 2021, Ackerman bought the property after the helicopters moved to Blair. Neither within the city of Omaha or in a community development area, the project is not eligible for most public funding programs. So Ackerman's financing it himself and looking for investors who want to blend private aviation with hospitality.
The plan includes tearing down these hangars and putting up an aviator's hotel, including a 13,000 square foot clubhouse.
It'll have a bar, restaurant, lounge space, some golf simulators. We talked about a spa, some fitness areas. So again, really kind of playing on the concept of a country club style for aviators.
6 News talked with neighbors who are hopeful but concerned.
I'm generally in favor of economic development. There's always a concern with increased traffic.
To eliminate some possible problems, Ackerman says parking will be underground. He says he's working with Public Works on environmental impact. And while there's no plans to increase the size of the airport, the runway will be extended for safety reasons only.
It'll be mostly single prop planes, single engine airplanes, maybe a few light twins. Occasionally you get a turboprop that comes in and out.
If all goes as planned, the project will land around the end of 2025. Laura Samble, 6 News.
A neighborhood meeting is scheduled for a week from Wednesday. In February, plans will go back to the City Planning Board, and if approved, then they'll go to City Council. Now, if all goes planned, the project could be completed by the end of 2024 or the beginning of 2025.